You're listening to the Secure Dad Podcast. Discover ways to secure your home, protect your family, and embrace your role as a protector parent. Welcome, friend. I'm Andy Murphy, the creator of The Secure Dad. This podcast serves to help families become proactive in their safety. The information I share on this podcast is for general information purposes only. My goal is to empower you to make safer decisions for yourself and your family, because our safety is our own responsibility. Today we're going to be talking about street takeovers. I'm going to share what they are, how they work, and the many layers of unintentional threats that they pose to us. All of that and more ahead on the Secure Dad Podcast. You know, I've been a customer of Delete Me for years. One of the things that helped me make my decision was the fact that Delete Me tells you how to opt out of people search sites for free. Yes, they show you how to do it for free. If you go to joindeleteme.com/dad, you'll see at the top DIY opt-out guides. They will walk you through how to get your information removed from sites with no strings attached. So you have the power to remove yourself. But what you'll quickly find is that it takes a lot of work. Then you have to do this for every people search site out there. And no, there is not one uniform way to opt out. And then you have to continue to monitor all of those sites. So not only will Delete Me remove your information from these sites for you, but they will also save you tons of hours of work and stress. Once you know that, signing up just makes sense. I trust Delete Me with my family's privacy. Start today at joindeleteme.com/dad and use promo code DAD to get 20% off today. I'm proud to have Delete Me as a sponsor of this podcast. And before we hit today's topic, I wanted to say thank you so much for your support over the last 7 years. Back on the 5th of September, the Secure Dad celebrated 7 years of helping families live safer, happier lives. I really do appreciate all that you guys have done for me and for my family. I really do consider it a privilege to talk to you, to be able to email you stuff and to alert you to whatever's going on social media. This is really something that I appreciate. This is something that I want to continue to do, and I so value your time, and I understand how busy your lives are, and that you share some of it with me. It really is a blessing. So thank you for the opportunity to serve you. So today on the show, I wanted to talk to you about something that we have seen on the news. We have seen this on social media, and it seems to be just kind of everywhere right now, and that is something called a street takeover. A street takeover, which is sometimes called a sideshow, is when a group of people decide to meet at an intersection or a parking lot to showcase their cars and driving abilities by drifting. Now, mostly this looks like cutting donuts, but the cool kids call it drifting. Think of it as a flash mob with cars. In a matter of minutes, an intersection can be taken over by cars and crowds. We're talking about maybe a dozen cars or 150 or more people. It just depends. While street takeovers do follow a pattern, they are all unique. And yes, these are illegal for many reasons. The process of starting a sideshow is grassroots. People who want to start the show use social media and texting to get the word out about a specific time, a location, and who's going to be there. The motive for starting an event like this varies from promoting another event to just boredom, so it really runs the spectrum. These events usually occur at night in an urban location where not much is going on, but in recent months, more and more street takeovers are happening during the day and with much more significant traffic. When a location is picked, spectators' cars will block off the intersection and people will fill in around the open space. Then the cars that are participating in the event will make their way to the middle. In the intersection, in an unorganized manner, cars and drivers will show off what they can do. While most people watch from the safety of the sidewalk, there are a few people who choose to run to the center of the intersection to get the best camera angle for TikTok. As you might surmise, this can be quite dangerous for everybody involved. Street takeovers have several layers to them. First is the danger of the car. Then there's the dynamic threat of the crowd. And lastly, there's the escape from law enforcement, which can escalate into a car chase or even a fatal accident. The first danger that we got to address here is that drivers who are showcasing their abilities are not professional drivers. While some are better than others, and certainly better than me, most of them are average and have never done any sort of stunt driving before, and they may have never even done a sideshow before. Oh, and by the way, drugs and alcohol can be involved as well. This can lead drivers to hit other cars, power poles, and even onlookers. In some cases, I've seen a car catch fire, and of course, it's hard for the fire department to get to the car because of all of the crowds. One of the biggest threats that people face is getting hit by a car. Like I said before, some people will grab their cell phones and go out into the intersection to try to get as close to the cars as possible. As a cameraman for more than 20 years, I get the allure of risking it to get the shot. I almost got gored once by a bull at a rodeo because I got too close to a bull in a chute. I didn't think they could jump. Like, I legitimately did not think they could jump. I was very surprised, as you might imagine. But going back to the driver here, that driver in the sideshow can barely tell where he is in that intersection, and it's hard to keep his car under control. And then you have some guy running out there with his phone trying to get video of it, and the driver hits him because he never knew that he was there. When people are hit, it looks like they're getting bucked off of a bull. They go flying, and the cars are actually damaged pretty badly. And usually, this prompts the driver to flee. The most dangerous dynamic, in my opinion here, is the crowd. The more people there are in a crowd, the dumber everyone gets. And that's for every crowd, not just a street takeover, that's every crowd. This is part of collective behavior, when an unstructured group of people respond to an event. The takeover, it doesn't have any hard and fast rules about how people need to act, so when something inevitably goes wrong, the crowd is going to respond to that. The crowd can develop into a mob, which then can evolve to a riot, depending on what happens. So a crowd that came to see a show may turn to looting. Also, shootouts between subgroups in the crowd cannot be ruled out either. So the atmospherics of a street takeover are very important to track as they can indicate when things might go sideways. Then there's the bystander effect. When somebody gets hurt, the more people there are, the less likely people will move in to do something about it. So if you get hurt at one of these events, you're most likely going to be on your own unless a friend comes to get you. We could really talk a lot about the crowd aspect of these events in much greater depth with, people smarter than me, but this is just a starting point for a better understanding. Now, before we move on, let's answer a question that you might have. Why would you even go to a street takeover in the first place? And I think most people go to a takeover to have a good time and just to see what happens. The intent of the takeover is not to be violent or harmful, so people go thinking that it's safe because nobody really wants to hurt anyone. Injury and death are just an unintended consequence when things go wrong. Usually, street takeovers end either when somebody wrecks, gets seriously hurt, or the cops show up. Depending on where you live, the police may not break up a takeover. Some precincts may think that it's too dangerous to break them up, especially if that mob mentality has been reached. Only recently have some states moved to outlaw these events. But in Atlanta, back in August, a Georgia state trooper made headlines by taking down a driver of an F-150 who was doing donuts in an intersection on Northside Drive as part of a takeover. When the trooper arrived, the F-150 tried to escape and drove into a crowd of onlookers where he hit 3 people. The trooper executed a pit maneuver, jumped on the hood of his car, and pulled the F-150 driver out through the window and arrested him on the hood of his Charger. It was pretty epic. I am sure you have seen the video. I say this to let you know that police response is going to vary from location to location. So if you see a takeover developing, my suggestion is to leave as fast as you can. So this leads us to an important question. What are the warning signs of a street takeover? If you monitor your local social media, it is possible to see posts about takeovers before they happen. You can use open source intelligence to spot these things as they develop. You can also follow your local news and see the hot spots for these events and generally know where to avoid them if possible. Sometimes you can't avoid them, I get that. Another clue that things are developing is the sudden presence of a mass group of unorganized people at an intersection or a parking lot. No matter what happens next, a large crowd like this swarming in an area is your cue to leave. If you can't get out, then move to a safe place and don't attract any attention to yourself. Wait it out until you can leave. A lot of the same strategies that you used to avoid riots during 2020 is going to help you here. And of course, a sudden gathering of loud cars that don't seem to have any sort of purpose is a good indicator that a takeover may be in the works. Over the summer, I went to a shoe store with my family. This particular side of town has been in decline over the past 20 years, which is sad because I used to live and work in this area. But people stopped putting money into keeping up their properties, and so illegal activity increased. It happens everywhere. Across from the store is a mall that has been dying for years, and in the parking lot was a group of 15 to 20 men and a nice collection of cars. There were Dodges, BMWs, Chevys, all with like aftermarket parts and wraps on them. In that parking lot and in the shoe store parking lot, there were tire marks where you could clearly see that people had been drifting and cutting donuts. And also, this particular area was near 2 major interstates. So all of these clues indicate that a street takeover may be happening soon. I wasn't worried that the drivers had any sort of intent on harming us, but I knew that if we stuck around, we could be hurt as a bystander. So I hurried through the shopping experience while keeping an eye on the crowd, and then we left. Afterward, I fully explained to my wife and my son what I had seen, what a takeover was, and the potential threat that, could have happened. So I guess this episode started then. As street takeovers grow in popularity, we're going to see more and more videos of people getting hurt. Right now, they seem to be happening in large cities, but don't rule out a bunch of kids trying to start one near your home. Well, that's all that I have for the Secure Dad podcast for today. Thank you, friend, for being a part of the show. Take back your privacy and personal data with help from Delete Me. Get 20% off a privacy plan when using the code DAD at checkout. There's a link in today's show notes. If you'd like for your child to have a smartphone but not access to the whole internet, consider a TrueMe phone. I think TrueMe is a great first phone. Click on the link in the show notes and use code SECUREDAD at checkout for $50 off a phone of your choice. I am working on new videos, so consider subscribing to my channel over on YouTube. Just search for The Secure Dad and keep an eye on it for some new upcoming stuff. I'm Andy Murphy reminding you that our safety is our own responsibility.